Amanda here from createyourfuture.co. So guys, we have an exciting video today, and the video is to answer a subscriber's question of should I have the relationship talk with somebody? So we are going to dive into that. Just before we do, guys, we are doing a giveaway when we get to 100,000 subscribers for thanking you guys for sharing the channel. Thousands of you guys share our videos with your friends, family, and in different LOA groups all the time. So thank you for that. We really do appreciate it. So that's why when we get to 100,000 subscribers, we're giving away 3 free coaching sessions, 1 to each person. And 1 session with the coach of your choice. We also have a free course, how to manifest how to find your blocks to manifest anything fast. So that's really exciting. Definitely check it out. Link is in the description. And yeah, and guys, my course, how to manifest the relationship you love, as well as my affirmation track of how to get rid of the third party, are on sale. That course is all the techniques I use to manifest my relationship. And I'm married now, so big rings. So anyway, a lot of good stuff in that, as well as the free course as well. You know, here we're just trying to help people to, here we are helping people to reach their potentials and, and manifest what they want. So, because there's no reason why we all can't have exactly what we want. So, yeah. Okay, let's dive into it. Should you have the relationship talk? So I'm going to give you a success story of my own. Okay, so way back when I was manifesting Andrew, so we were just dating and we were seeing each other every day, having dinner, hanging out. It was great, but he'd always go home. And it was like, I think it was like already 8 months in. And I was thinking, okay, you know what? This is crazy. You know what? He's older. I'm older. We both live in 2 separate places. We spend all our time together. Why don't we just live together? So one night I basically asked him, decided, okay, let's have the relationship talk, right? So I confronted him and I said, hey, what's going on with us? Like, I kind of want to move in together. I want to take this to the next level. And he was just like, well, I don't. He's like, you know what? I've had, problems before in relationships, and I just don't want to get into a serious committed relationship. And I was like, oh my goodness, right? So then I started crying and I was pretty much like, okay, that's it. You know what? I don't want to waste my time with you. If you don't want this to go, I want this to go somewhere. And if you've got issues and baggage and you're not seeing this going anywhere, then I don't want to be with you. And then of course I started crying because, saying something like that to somebody, I'm very sensitive. And like, even that hurt me even to say it to him. And I felt like part of me felt like, okay, this is right. I'm standing up for myself. But then part of me was like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right, because obviously I've created him to not want to be in a committed relationship. And now I'm basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so it was like, okay, where am I coming from? Like, what do I want? And do I want him to leave right now? And I was like, no, I'm enjoying the relationship that we have. Can I blame him for not wanting a commitment? No, because obviously I've created him with that, right? With that baggage, right? And so it was like, okay. So then I basically said, he's like, do you want me to leave? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I understand if you don't want to be in a relationship. It's like, I get it. I'm like, let's just stay and watch a movie, right? And so I remember the next day even, I was worried if he was going to come over after that whole kerfuffle. And then I was like, basically, I phoned him to see if he was coming over. And I was like, again, I just wanted to apologize for yesterday. I'm like, I'm very sorry. I'm like, I understand if you've had problems before and you're not ready for a relationship, I like what we're doing now. It's fine. You know what? I'm okay with this. And then, so basically for the next 5 days, what I did was I created myself a mantra, and I started saying, you know what? I intend that he's over his baggage and he's ready to be in a committed relationship with me, and we move in together because I'm good enough. And then, and so then I just kept saying, you know what, I intend he's over his baggage and ready for a committed relationship because I'm good enough, and we're going to move in together. And so I did that for like 5 days straight. And these 5 days were actually torture because he was apartment, like condo shopping. and he was taking me with him because I did intend that we'd go condo shopping together. But when we went condo shopping, he was like, oh, just talking like it's his place. So he had just told me a couple days prior that he did not want a committed relationship, that he did not want to live with me. And now he's like, I'm going condo shopping with him. Like, and after he basically just rejected me. And like, basically the fact that we're not going to live together is being thrown in my face for 5 days. Okay. But you know what I kept doing? Instead of like getting on my ego and getting all like, on my high horse about it, I was like just humble about it. And I was like, no, you know what? And when we went to these different places, he would be like, what do you think of this place? And I would answer him like I was moving in as well. So I would be like, yeah, I don't really like the closet. That's way too small. I'm like, you know what? I don't like this layout. I'm like, oh, this is right beside the parking garage. Like I was giving my 2 cents in, like it was me shopping as well. Even though he was making it clear it was just for him, I just kept ignoring that part. Right. And, and just kept playing along anyway, so finally, it was like day 5 of hanging out, going and looking at all these different places for him to buy. We end up going to see like this houseboat thing, right? And we end up going to a pub not too far from there for lunch because we had just looked at a place there for him. And we're sitting there having lunch. And I remember I was on my phone playing around on Reddit. We were at the table and he was doing something on his phone. And all of a sudden he looks up and he says, you know what? I said, what? He goes, I realize that you're not crazy. And he's like, I would like to move in with you. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay. So then I was like, I excuse myself to go to the bathroom. And in the bathroom, I was like, right. And then I went to go sit back down. Oh my God, this is so crazy reliving this. It was such a great afternoon. Anyway, so I go back in, I sit down and I said, so I'm like, what made you change your mind? And he was like, well, he's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay. Anyways, so we ended up, and then after that, it happened really fast, like within like less than a month we were living together. But then fast forward, like basically like 2 years, whatever. Anyway, well into our relationship, already living together, and he was never into law of assumption or anything. He kind of thought I was a bit woohoo about it, like it wasn't something that he was into, and so basically over the years, he just, seen me be successful and do positive thinking and intentions and, and the way I think and the way I create things in my life. And he just thought, wow, you're successful, you're happy, and so he started to believe in LOA and law of assumption, right? And everyone as you pushed out and started practicing it himself. Anyways, and then so the funny thing was, right, is we were talking about it one day because we were actually throwing around the idea of doing a video together for this channel, right? Anyway, so I said to him, I said, so what didn't make you change your mind back then? And he was like, it was funny. He was like, because you were okay with me not wanting to move in with me, and you were okay with me, just keeping the relationship the way it was. He's like, I panicked because I thought I was going to lose you because you were okay with letting go of, your wanting to move in together. And I wasn't pushing. I just said, that's okay. And he was like, oh crap, I think I'm going to lose her because, if I was like pining, because like when I wanted to move in with him and like, and I was like pressuring to move in with him, he was like, oh, well, I can just say, no, I'm not going to lose her. She wants to be with me. But as soon as I was like, well, okay, whatever, if you don't want to move in together, I'm fine with that. We'll just keep doing this. He started to panic, right? He went into panic mode. But because at the same time, I was changing my intentions that he wanted to be with me. He wanted a commitment, right? So, and so, that is basically, so the basic gist is, I mean, if you want to find out what your blocks were, right? Like I did the relationship talk with him and I found out that he had baggage. Before that, I didn't know. Okay. And then, so I knew what to pinpoint to work on. So, having the relationship talk is going to be great to find out what you've, manifested that person to be thinking, because remember, all of your assumptions are like little post-it notes on Jerry, right? So Doze doesn't want a relationship, put a post-it note. Has baggage, put a post-it note, right? all those things, all those assumptions that you've created, you know, you may have forgotten that you had those assumptions, but they're still there. Just because you've forgotten about them doesn't mean that the universe has. It stays in play until you revisit it. Because you know what, the funny thing is my assumption that married men have baggage and don't want to get married again. That was something I said with my girlfriend when I was like 20 years old, drinking, and I didn't even mean it. We were just talking, and I remember it now so vividly. And it was like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe that. So, you know, and it showed up. So, and the funny thing is because I mean, I was older at the time when I met Andrew. So the guys I'm dating were previously married and stuff because, you know, they're you know, in their 40s, you know, whatnot, right, and older. So the guy previously, he was married as well, and he didn't want a commitment with me either. And I hadn't pinpointed what the block was there, but obviously it was the same block, right? So then I had moved on to Andrew, and the block was still in play with guys that were previously married, right? So, you know, whether it's your current SP or a future SP, you're going to carry your blocks with you. You know, if your blocks and assumptions are general or about yourself or about relationships in general, right? So my advice is not to have the relationship talk, because if you're coming from the thought that your SP wants to be with you, why would you need to have the relationship talk, right? So if you're like right now, me and Andrew live together. Okay, we're married. Now, why would I ever go up to him right now and be like, do you want to have a 1-year anniversary? How do you feel about that? You know, like, of course we're going to have a 1-year anniversary. Like, I'm not going to walk up to him and be like, well, you know, like, do you think we're going to make it to 10 years? Like, do you think you want to do that? Like, the only reason I would do that is I was doubting you wanted to make it to 10 years. But no, I'm not doubting that. So, you know, you don't need to have the relationship talk if you're secure in your relationship. So how do you live from the end? Okay, so what would your thoughts be if you already had what you want? So looking back, okay, if I had the assumption that Andrew did want a committed relationship back then, I wouldn't have had the relationship talk with him about why we aren't moving in together or progressing this forward, because I would already be going, well, of course we're going to do that. Okay, so obviously I wasn't in that state. I was in the state of lack, thinking I wasn't going to have what I wanted, right? And then confronting him about it, right? And then, you know, almost letting my ego take over and throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? And, you know, and that would have made it so much worse. It just would have drove a wedge, right? And at the end of the day, the only person that was hurt over the relationship talk was me, because then I had all these thoughts that he didn't want to see me, he didn't want to talk to me, blah, 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 you know, so I had to change all that around as well. Now, there have been times that I've heard people have the relationship talk and it has worked out. Okay, so if you think, now not even think, you have to truly believe it in your core. You have to believe it in your core that having the talk about your relationship is going to work to create your relationship. So most people don't have that. Most people are coming from rejection, unfortunately. Okay, if you're like I said, if you're doubting it, then why are you having it? Okay, like if you thought that you had that in your relationship, like that he wanted to be in a commitment, why would you need to talk about it? Okay, I'm gonna, you know, that's the 100%, you know, truth right there. Now, you can't trick yourself and say, oh, well, I'm just gonna have the relationship talk because I know he wants to be with me, but not actually truly believe that to your bone, to your core, in your heart of hearts, right? Like, you can't fool the universe. Okay, but you know what, even if you want to do that, try it out, do the relationship talk. You can't wreck anything, because all you do is you're like, okay, no, you know what, it's totally fine, he wants to be with me. And in fact, the fact that we talked about our relationship is going to make him want to be with me more. Everything can be fixed. You can't screw this up. You can't do anything wrong. You can only screw it up if you say you're going to screw it up, right? So anyways, yeah, I mean, I suggest not to have the relationship talk. I mean, if you do, there are some value to it. You find out what your blocks are firsthand, because they're going to tell you, right? But, you know, I think it's a lot more beneficial, you know, just to live in the end in your mind of, you know, coming from, I already have what I want. So living in the end in your mind is, well, if I want a relationship with Jerry, right, and I want a commitment with Jerry, then I need to start assuming that Jerry wants that commitment as well. Boom, you're living from the end of a commitment, and then making all your actions come from that end. So, you know, the thought process would be, well, you know, I want Jerry to move in with me, you know, oh, but I don't know where we stand. Okay, right there, I don't know where we stand is not living from the end of assuming Jerry wants to be in a commitment. Okay. So you would change that, you know what? And I assume Jerry wants to move in with me. And you know what? Then you can I intend Jerry brings it up to talk about moving in together, right? Anyway, guys, I intend that helps. Yeah, so it's a question that comes up, and I just thought I would share with you guys my little success story and my experience having the relationship talk. And of course, the relationship talk did not ruin my relationship in any way. I've been happily married now. In 30 days from now, it's going to be a year that I've been happily married. So yeah, you know what? You can do and have anything that you want. And, you know, all the coaches here at Create Your Future, we absolutely care about your success. And yeah, we hope you enjoy all of our videos, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.